Um, while I wish we were all together in person, a crimson wave taking over the Great Hall, even this weather is not going to stop us from coming together to mobilize, advocate, and take action for menstrual equity. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that we are joining today from across the ancestral and unceded lands of many Indigenous peoples throughout Massachusetts. We honor the Massachusetts, Wampanoag, Pocasset, Pequot, and Narragansett, and all Indigenous communities who have stewarded this land for generations. As we discuss equity and justice today, let us recognize that their resilience and ongoing contributions and commit ourselves to dismantling systems of oppression in all forms. I also want to take a moment to thank the incredible staff and volunteers who made this event possible. A huge shout out to the Mass Now team, Kyla, Kathy, Jem, and our interns, Kate, Sydney, and Allie, and everyone on the Massachusetts Menstrual Equity Coalition who has been absolutely dynamite, especially adapting for some last minute changes. Not even the snow could stop them. And I'm so grateful for all of this hard work. This would not have been possible at all without them. So please join me in giving them a virtual round of applause. Yay, feel all the love. Thank you all. Um, so menstrual equity is about ensuring that everyone who menstruates has access to the products, education, and healthcare that they need without stigma, financial barriers, or shame. No one should have to choose between buying food, rent, or period products. No students should have to miss class because they don't have a pad. And no incarcerated person should have to beg for basic hygiene. And yet, this is a reality for so many across our state of Massachusetts. Can you imagine if you had to bring your own toilet paper every single time you left the house? We don't expect people to pay for toilet paper, and menstrual products are essential. It's time that we treat them as such. Um, it's not lost on me that just 6 years ago, there were no bills at the State House mentioning periods or menstrual products. And this year, at the beginning of the 194th legislative session, we have a record-breaking number of menstrual equity bills that have been filed. Massachusetts has the opportunity to be a national leader in menstrual equity. However, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures, states have passed over 60 bills to address period poverty in the last 8 years, half, 30 of which were just in the last 2 years, but Massachusetts hasn't passed any on the state level. So it's time for us to catch up and lead the way in ensuring menstrual equity for all. I'm sure it's not lost on any of the people here also that we are living in a time where reproductive rights and bodily autonomy are under attack. And we see that every single time we turn on the news. Menstrual equity is a critical piece of the fight for reproductive justice. Access to period products is about more than just hygiene. It's about dignity, health, and economic justice. And with growing populations and of need and widening disparities, we must act right now to ensure that no one in Massachusetts is denied access to essential care. So our goal today is simple but powerful. We want you to meet, call, and write as many state legislators as we possibly can to drive co-sponsorships for our menstrual equity legislative agenda. Thanks to our incredible team, we have over 40 meetings with legislators planned and now planned online. And last time I checked, as of yesterday, we had around 20 co-sponsors across all of our menstrual equity bills filed this session. So with your advocacy today, we hope to double that number by the end of today. We have an incredible lineup of speakers. And I'm excited that we'll all be able to hear from all of them now. Wow, we are 84 people strong at the moment. That's incredible. Um, to kick us off, we're going to change our speaking program around a little bit and start off with our champions for the I Am bill, who from day one have introduced this bill and helped get it passed through the Senate unanimously twice over the last two sessions. And hopefully this session is the session that they're going to lead us to the finish line. Thank you so much for your leadership and your advocacy in the State House. I would now like to welcome to the center of our screens Representatives Jay Livingstone, Representative Christine Barber, and Senator Pat Jalen. Join me in giving them a warm virtual round of applause. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here, for understanding and appreciating this issue. I remember 6 years ago when my legislative aide, a woman named Caitlin Duffy, came to me with this issue, how New York had just passed the bill, and we thought it was appropriate to file at the state level. I did not think 6 years from now we'd still be pushing this. I thought it would be a little easier, but every term we've gotten more support. The coalition's been bigger. Mass Now has been a great partner, along with my legislative colleagues, Christine Barber, Senator Jalen, as well as Representative Roy, who has a separate bill. I think this is the term that we're going to get this done, but legislation is a team effort. So when Sasha said, contact as many reps as possible, you really want to contact your rep, the one that you can vote for, your senator. Those are the ones that are going to be most responsive to you. If you have a relationship with somebody else, feel free to contact them, but really focus on your representative, your senator. And every term we're building support, we're building more appreciation in the State House. And with your help, I think we can get this over the finish line. So I'm so glad to be part of this coalition, so glad to be part of this effort, and highlight this issue, which is underreported and underappreciated in our society. And with that, I'll turn it over to Representative Barber. Thanks.
Thanks, Rep. Livingstone. Hi, everyone. I'm Rep. Christine Barber, and I represent parts of Somerville and Medford. And as Rep. Livingstone said, I am really honored to have been one of the lead sponsors of this bill, along with him and Senator Jalen in the Senate for the last couple sessions. It's really great to be here with you all today. So thank you for showing up, even with the snow and the logistical changes. This is an incredible group of advocates, and really excited to work on this bill and hopefully get it across the finish line. So as Rep. Livingstone said, the bill is an act to increase disposable menstrual products in prison, shelters, and public schools. And I was inspired to work on this bill because of young people in my district. So in Somerville, a number of years ago, the students organized and they were successful in getting menstrual products in all of the schools. Medford students have also organized and worked really hard. We're not quite there yet in Medford, but there's been a lot of amazing advocacy from young people that inspired me to work with them and file this bill at the state level. So I'm really grateful for young people for leading the way. We know that 1 in 5 menstruators have missed school or classes because they don't have menstrual products, and it can be really difficult to go to the nurse's station or find some other way to get products and be worrying about that while you're supposed to be learning in school. We want to make sure, as Sasha said, this is as regular as toilet paper to have in all of the restrooms. So I'm really grateful for all the work that you all are doing, and for the support for this bill and Rep. Roy's similar bill as well. And I really do want to underscore, this is a statewide effort. I'm sure there's people from all over the state here. So if you can talk to your rep, get them to co-sponsor this bill, we can keep building support and keep talking about just how critical this issue is for you and your family and your community. So thank you again for all of your energy. I'm really excited about this bill and look forward to working with you. And I also want to, I think, kick it over to Senator Jalen, who is the Senate sponsor of this bill. And I see her here. So, Senator.
I'm just going to talk once. I'm going to talk about the other bill. I don't need to hear all the time. We have a lot of great speakers.
It's hard being a champion of so many menstrual equity bills. I know. Thank you for your patience, everyone, as we reorder our speaking list. We'll come back to you, Senator Jalen, very soon. And thank you again to our lead sponsors, Rep. Livingstone and Rep. Barber. It's been such a pleasure to work with you. And like you said, every year, every session, we are getting stronger. And it's because of all of you here that we are getting more bills filed and our movement is growing. So thank you. I have the opportunity next to kick it off to one of our hardest working advocates in the Menstrual Equity Coalition. And I don't say that lightly. I know this woman is working every single day, every single night, all the weekends, mobilizing students in her district, and is we know many hands make light work, and yet it's also been such a treat to work with Kenzie and see how much one person, in fact, can actually do when they are so angry and motivated for menstrual equity. I'll let her tell you her story herself, but I just want to say, Kenzie, how thankful I am to have watched all of the hundreds of thousands of products that you've been able to move across the state. So without further ado, I will hand it over to you.
Oh, thank you for that introduction. And I want to say, yes, many hands makes light work. And it's not just me here on the South Shore doing all of this. It's a team effort of a lot of people doing what they can when they can. And that's what I tell people when they want to get invested with menstrual equity work. No one of us can do it all alone. You do what you can when you can. But I'll tell you the story about how I got started with this 4 years ago now. I placed 5 phone calls in 2021 to local organizations here on the South Shore. And in those 5 phone calls, we identified 700 of our immediate neighbors who were in need of monthly support. And what I thought was going to be a yearly product drive to just support our local organizations quickly, within days, grew into, okay, we need to mobilize and meet this need every month. And as the word got out about what we were doing, requests started coming in faster than we could fill. And we quickly saw a pattern that the majority of our donations and requests were related to supporting our students. And as the luck would have it, the universe put me in the right place at the right time. We got a grant to supply Brockton Public Schools, and I was in the parking lot with 20,000 products in my car. I mean, we're volunteers, we're bare bones. And a woman stopped me and said, "What in the world are you doing in the parking lot with 20,000 pads and tampons?" And I told her about free period and what we were doing. And it just so happened that this woman was the Southeast Region school nurse consultant, Dr. Linehan. And with that connection, we were able to survey every school nurse who was willing to participate in the state. And many of them did. And what we found was 92% of our schools were unable to adequately supply products for students. In addition to this, school nurses, in the 360 or so responses we got across the state, over 5,000 students were identified at risk of not coming to school at all while menstruating, and sometimes as young as 3rd grade. Now we have about 250,000 potentially menstruating students here in our public schools, 80% of which will miss class because products are simply not where they should be. So that's 200,000 of our 250,000 students who will miss class. And you know, the 5,000, if we go back to that, that's 2% won't come to school at all, just because a natural biological function is not being supported at school. So we gathered all this information. We took it to our local senator, Patrick O'Connor, and thankfully, he was able to champion our work. And the Commonwealth entrusted us, Free Period, with $500,000 last year to do this work. And we were able, within a day of our funding being released, to create a program to get 2.4 million products exactly where they needed to be to over 300 schools across the state. And we were able to partner with a Massachusetts-based organic manufacturer to boot. So it really was a wonderful example of how the state can support the work that needs to be done. And this is a very academic way of me talking about why we do this work, but I need to talk about the human side of what I see when I do this work every day. And I'm fiercely protective of the stories that come across to me. But something that keeps happening that I need to talk about, and that's for 2 years in a row now. We've been doing this work for 4 years. So the last 2 years, we are getting requests from Angel Tree organizations that kids are using their Angel Tree requests for period products. These requests are not toys. These are children begging for dignity, begging for the opportunity to go to school and learn, pleading to be able to be with their friends, to play sports, to go to after-school activities, and to just exist without worry. I want you to sit with that, and I want you to think about that children are using Angel Tree requests for period products in the state of Massachusetts. Now, Free Period is small, and the work is bigger than me or any of our volunteers or any of us can do alone. But the comprehensive legislation that's on the table is a way that we can make sure that students always have access to products to support the basic needs that they are born with while at school. So Free Period uncovered the scope of the need. We formed a plan to meet it. We did so in an efficient and timely manner, and we did it with quality products. And I know this can be done with even more efficiency if the state were able to do it through legislation. And my sincere hope, and I think everybody's hope that works in menstrual equity, is that Free Period is made obsolete. We should not have to be doing this work. And so many other states have made it work, and I know we can too here in Massachusetts.
Thank you, Kenzie, for that moving story about menstrual products not just being, disposable things that we can get rid of, but this is something that people are asking for the holidays as a gift. And that's not how it should be. We can do better here in Massachusetts. And I also love what you said about how you are working for your own work to be obsolete, as are we here in Mass now. That's not the case for a lot of organizations. Sometimes organizations are here and they hope to grow year after year, and that is a sign of success. For us, a sign of success would be if we don't have to do this work anymore, because it should not be on volunteers like you in order to meet the needs for basic needs for menstruators across the state. And yet I'm still so blown away with, how many menstrual products you've been able to raise money and distribute. And every single time you get a donation, I know you're not holding on to them. They're not hanging out in a storage unit. They are immediately going. You already know where the next shipment is going before you even get it. And so that's how quickly this product is moving. We're next going to move to an activist in our coalition who also wears many hats. She is a student. She is a leader of the student subcommittee of the Menstrual Equity Coalition, bringing together students from around the state to advocate for free period products in their schools on the high school and college level. And she's been organizing herself. And she takes photos. So if you were at the summit, you would have seen her behind the camera. And if we were in person today, she would be directing us all to make sure that she could see us in a big group shot. But we'll have to figure out another creative way to take a big group shot in a little bit. But without further ado, I am very excited to welcome Daniela from Walnut Hill School for the Arts to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Sasha. That was so nice. I hope everyone can bear with me because I did lose my voice a little bit, so I'm really going to try my best. Um, but similar to Kenzie, I wanted to start with a story which really helped launch why I'm so passionate about menstrual equity, especially as a longstanding Massachusetts student. So in the sixth grade, I attended Natick Public Schools, which had a policy at the time that we couldn't go out to our lockers and we couldn't bring our backpacks in the class. It was a very rough time, especially for someone like me. I was very concerned about getting in trouble, and I also had just gotten my first period. So I was trying to navigate what it meant to be a student who is in classes all the time. It's my first period. My pad is heavy. When do I go to the bathroom? How do I ask my teacher to leave and get my pad? So one day, my pad was becoming increasingly heavy, and I asked my teacher if I could use the restroom just so I could sneak out to my locker and grab a pad for my backpack. So I did so, and when I turned around, I came face to face with the same teacher, who demanded that I show her what I had just put in my pocket. And I was a very, very shy 13-year-old who didn't want to expose that to everyone that I was in school with, especially because, that's the age where everyone decides to bully you for some reason. So I did not want to be the target of that. So I tried to use like girl code, which is such a strange thing to do, but she continued to demand to see what was in my hand. And at this point, everyone was in the hallway and everyone was looking at me and they were trying to see if I was going to get in trouble. So I showed my pad and people were laughing, and she didn't have a good response for why she just forced me to show her my menstrual product. And this is just my story, but I feel like I've heard this story multiple times, even from high school students. Luckily, my current school is not like that. And I actually just worked with EGAL, Pads on a Roll, to install 15 dispensers in our school. So for me, I feel like if I can make things a little bit easier for my peers, they can just effortlessly walk into the bathroom, and if they didn't realize they just got their period, they have pads available to them. But even still today, I encounter walking into bathrooms all around Boston, and the pads might cost me something, or they're like a quarter or a dime, and I don't always have that on me. Or the products that were supposed to be there aren't restocked. Or a new thing that I'm still learning about is toxic products. And I am someone that I have very sensitive skin. I have a lot of health conditions. So to have a toxic product that is literally inside of me is extremely dangerous. And it's dangerous for people that don't have health conditions as well. But I'm so honored to be the co-head of the subcommittee because we've been working together on a toolkit. And this toolkit includes everything from slides about menstrual disorders, product comparisons. We've also included slide decks for any students who are interested in hosting club meetings, or even just going to administration like I had to do. And this should make things a lot easier. So if you do want to start a coalition at your school or in your community, um, it's all available to you in a toolkit. And I'd also say that we really want more students to join, because as of right now, our meetings have been very thin. And I know from conversing with students at my school that there are many people angry and passionate about menstrual equity. So I encourage everyone today that if you know students or in the Massachusetts area that are passionate about this, to come join our meetings, because we could really use more fire. And we want to continue working on projects like the toolkit. But I wanted to just end by saying that menstrual equity means equal and affordable access to safe menstrual products for all menstruators. And we wrote that in part of our toolkit, and I think that it's something that I'm trying to repeat, especially in my school, and how I approached administration. Like, we don't want to have to leave class. For people that like me, that I have pretty rough periods, I don't want to have to leave school. I don't want to have to stress about what between periods am I going to be able to run to the restroom, all that kind of stuff. Am I not going to find any products? Is it going to take me by surprise? So by talking to our legislators today about co-sponsoring our menstrual equity legislative agenda, I'm hoping that we can move the needle towards passing policy that ensures all menstruators have access to quality products, and also break down the stigma that many of us face and that my little 13-year-old self was facing in that school hallway. So I'm just really happy to be here, and thank you all for your support.
Thank you, Daniela. Everyone can give Daniela a virtual round of applause. Before we move to our next speakers, in honor of Daniela's photography skills, I would like to use this moment right now for us all to take a group photo. So if you can, turn your cameras on, and you can bring your menstrual product in the camera with you, and just keep smiling for like 15 seconds because we're going to have to take many screenshots of all nearly 100 people on this call. So thank you. I see you smiling. I see your period power book, Kristen. I love it. Kenzie's got the whole pad out. And also pads on a roll, if you haven't heard of them, they're really cool. They're just like go on the same roll as the toilet paper, and it's perforated and you can pull one off. Kyla, give me a thumbs up when you feel like you've got okay. Yay! Thank you, everyone. All right, so I'm now going to hand it over to Rep. Blais, who along with Senator Comerford has introduced a bill to make ingredient disclosure mandatory for menstrual products. This is super important because we don't want, like Daniela was just talking about, to have harmful products be sent to our most vulnerable populations here in Massachusetts. And so thank you so much for your leadership on this. And I know you're on a time crunch, so I'll just keep it short and hand it over to you, Rep. Blais.
Thank you, Sasha. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Great. First of all, the fact that you and your team turned this from an in-person meeting to a virtual meeting in 24 hours is nothing short of a miracle. And so just thank you so much to you and your team for making this possible for all of us to join together from across the entire Commonwealth to talk about this package of bills that will make such a difference in people's lives. Senator Comerford and I first offered this legislation when the issue was brought to us by a group of high school students. It was an 8th grade civics class at Frontier Regional. And these 3 students have now led the way on this issue about raising awareness about the fact that we don't know what we are putting in our bodies. The requirement for ingredients to be printed on this packaging is currently not something that's required. And we expect disclosure of ingredients in food, in cosmetics, due to the direct interaction of these products with our bodies. And Daniela, believe me, I heard what you just said about having those sensitivities, and we should expect and deserve no less when it comes to menstrual products, because no one should have to worry that their period products will cause them harm, that it will impact their health or their fertility. And by keeping these ingredients secret, people are denied the information necessary to make the informed decisions about their health. New York has passed this legislation. California has passed this legislation. And in the absence of federal action, Massachusetts has the opportunity to be a national leader on menstrual product ingredient labeling, protecting and educating menstruators across the state about the harmful impact of chemical exposure from period products. And that's why I'm so proud to offer this bill again with Senator Comerford. And I am thrilled that there are so many young people across the Commonwealth taking action right now to say that this is not okay and it needs to change. Senator Comerford, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Well, that was a beautiful roundup, Rep. Blais, and I'm so grateful to join you in heeding the call from our students in our district to do this work. And Sasha and team, I echo what Natalie just said. You are the best organizers. And it's so great. I'm so grateful to join you and so glad to be part of this amazing group of advocates going for this amazing slate of bills. So I'll just say that what Rep. Blais said, I say ditto to, as I always do. And, you know, our concerns about this in terms of the contents in these menstrual products are borne out by research. So there are many studies now that call attention to chemicals like PFAS or lead or arsenic that are inside menstrual products. And then therefore they are close to our skin and inside our bodies as women and menstruating people. So the research is beginning to come forward and actually just adds the kind of urgency to the work that we're doing, all of us, on this issue. And many people have said this before, and I'm sure many people will say it after, but we feel it very powerfully in the legislature that when you share your stories, as you're doing today, and mix those with facts, as Mass Now is so perfect in doing, that is the sweet spot for all of us in the legislature when we join hands with you. So again, I'm really grateful to join you today, and thanks so much for all the great organizing.
Thank you, Senator Comerford and Rep. Blais. It's so powerful to have this coalition now really be talking more about the quality of products, thanks to your leadership and the leadership of the students at Frontier School, because you know, we're not just about increasing access. We're not just about ending period poverty. Equity is really taking that 360-degree lens, and it might be harder to do, but because of all of us here learning about using the same language, we can make our movement stronger and explain to the legislature that we're not making things trickier by talking about quality, that this is just as important. I'm now going to hand it over to some of our other legislative champions around menstrual equity. I believe we have Rep. Decker in the House. I don't see you on my screen, but I'm looking for you. Rep. Decker also has worn many hats, has been one of the leaders of the committee that the I Am bill has been in and pushed that through. So thank you for your leadership as the chair there. And there's 2 more bills that Rep. Decker has been co-sponsoring this session. I'll let her talk about them, but it's really exciting to see the conversation continuing to expand about where we need menstrual products. Oh, I see you now, right in the center. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was great to hear from my colleagues as well, both Senator Comerford and Rep. Blais. And I'm also joined somewhere, I can't see because we're doing this little virtual world here, but I believe my colleague and co-filer, Rep. Jeff Roy, is on here as well. And just to say that really excited, he actually filed this bill and then was kind enough in knowing that I also was interested in asking me to join him with him as a co-filer, and just grateful that he did. The issue of menstrual products being accessible to young people, it's a human rights issue. You know, we're going to talk about it in an issue of equity, knowing that there's a lot of people who have their periods who are not able to afford making sure that they have the products that they need. And therefore are also face other health risks when you're not able to regularly change your pad or your tampon or whatever other product you use to help actually manage your period. There's a lot of stigma in even talking about this. And, you know, Jeff, I know you'll love this, but I will say that honestly, if men were getting their periods, I don't think this would be a conversation. I think this would have been seen as a basic like need. And I will just say that, we're going to work really hard to talk about this in a frame around access and human rights. Nobody should not be able to go to school, no young person, nobody, but certainly no young person. They should be able to focus on the things that are important to them and that we require of them. And that's to figure out how to thrive in this world. And that's to be able to show up to sports, to show up to social activities, and show up to class and not be humiliated or shamed and worried about how are they going to meet their needs of their bodies that they have no control over. And so I really look forward to having further conversations and really kind of framing this around a human rights lens. And then while I have you all on here, I'm just going to put up another plug into a bill that you're not talking about. But, you know, recently the governor just made another decision to not fund the TFDC grants. We're talking about equity and how people who are experiencing poverty access their basic needs. This is a bill that Sal DiDomenico, Senator, and I filed 5 years ago that was trying to get families living in deep poverty to 50% of federal deep poverty. So we were trying to get them up from like a family of 3 for $530 a month to $1,100. We would be actually hitting that mark right now, take away from inflation, except the governor did a 9C cut to these families last year and just informed us again this year that, that she does not plan on funding them. And if we're going to talk about equity, then we need to talk about all of the resources that families need in order to make these choices. Buying tampons and pads should not be at the expense of being able to buy medicine, pay for food, pay for heat, pay for winter boots or gloves or socks or things that like keep us like healthy and thriving. So I just put that in the context of all of this to say I'm grateful to be in community with all of you here. And in particularly my colleagues who've spoken and my incredible friend and partner in this work, Representative Jeff Roy.
Thank you, Rep. Decker. I think that's a perfect transition then to hand it off to Rep. Roy, who has been in this fight with us also since the beginning, for now going on 6 years. Thank you so much for your leadership in the State House, and thank you for being here today.
Great. Well, Sasha, it's so good to see you and great to follow Representative Decker. You can see why I wanted to partner with her on this particular issue, because she's such a staunch advocate and ally. We came into the legislature together back in 2013, and we've worked on so many projects together, and I think she's going to be the key to getting this over the finish line. Now, I started in this work as a result of a Medway high school student who brought this issue to my attention. And she was an amazing young woman who really pulled it together and educated me on this topic. The sad thing about it, that was so many years ago. That young woman is now a UMass Amherst graduate and is now in the working world. So that's how much time has elapsed since we first got involved with this work. And I'm also remarking on Kenzie's line about being human. And it reminded me that, Sasha, I ran into you at an event at the Museum of Science called Being Human. And that really reminded me that this issue is really about being human and how we need to address the inequitable treatment. I'll share with you one story. This had gotten media coverage when I first got involved in it, and I was doing my office hours at the senior center in Franklin, and an elderly gentleman, I'm going to call him Al so as not to embarrass him any further, but he came up to me and he said, "Rep. Roy, what are you doing to us? You know, asking for free menstrual products in restrooms. Isn't that going a bit too far?" And I said, "Al, do me a favor right now. Empty your pockets." And he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Al, I want to see how much toilet paper and hand towels you've brought with you to this meeting today." And it was at that moment when he realized just how important this work does. And when he sees me now at the senior center, he always asks, "How's that bill coming along?" He said, I really had missed it. But as so many have said, the fact that 1 in 5 girls have missed school because they don't have access to menstrual products is compelling. And I'm going to leave one note about something that we haven't talked about today. But Title IX, to the extent that it still exists after changes that the president has made to it, with 67% of students reporting that they miss valuable class time, and some girls reporting that they have been absent from school, the lack of menstrual products in schools really has become a Title IX issue. And it's something that we ought to put into the mix as we're having this discussion. So I'm so thrilled to join Representative Livingstone, Representative Barber, Senator Jalen, and Representative Decker on these bills to move this to across the goal line, across the finish line, and really make Massachusetts in line with what's the right thing to do. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you to Mass Now for all the great work. And thank you, Sasha, for being human.
I love that. Thank you, Rep Roy. Thank you, Rep Decker. I haven't been thanked for being human in a while, but I feel like especially now with AI, we need to actually be talking about that even more. And I also just want to thank all of our non-menstruators, all of our allies who are here today. We know we can't pass period policy just by menstruators talking to menstruators, because we don't make up enough of the legislature. And also because we need all hands on deck in this work. And so please, I encourage you to talk to some of the non-menstruators in your life if you haven't already. I know it can be scary, but I find actually that men are more interested and curious about talking about menstruation than maybe we've given them credit for. And so Rep Roy and Rep Livingstone are great examples of that leadership, and I thank them. So we just heard about a shout out to one UMass Amherst students, and there's been so many UMass Amherst students who have been doing the work on campus to make menstrual products free, and then expanding that activism beyond their campus. And I feel incredibly lucky to have brought one senior, soon to be graduate, onto the Mass Now team, our fourth full-time staffer on the Mass Now team. We didn't have any full-time staff when we started this work 6 years ago. So we've really come such a long way on that front, because this is real work. But Kathy, it's been such a pleasure to work with you over just the last 2 months. You've really hit the ground running. I know it feels like longer, but I'm excited to welcome you now to talk about some of the work you've done before joining our team and since joining our team.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Blasius. And I first learned about period poverty when I got involved with Mass Now through Advocacy Day last year, like many of you guys. And I can't believe it's been a whole year. Even though I never heard of the term period poverty before, it immediately made sense to me as a woman and as an immigrant to this country who here has gotten their period before, didn't expect it, didn't have a product on them or anything of that. Just raise your hand. Yeah, me too. I'm also a senior at UMass Amherst, where I firsthand saw how essential free menstrual products are for students. Too many times I've watched classmates scramble to find a tampon or a pad, some even leaving class early or missing it altogether, just like my roommates and just like me, because they couldn't access what they needed. No one should have to choose between their education or their basic needs and health. That's why students on campus have been actively advocating for menstrual equity. In fact, a recent study conducted by students in the Women into Leadership, which I'm on the board, and also our public health school, in collaboration with the health science department, found that nearly 40% of menstrual students at UMass have struggled to afford period products at some point during their college experience. That's almost half of our community dealing with period poverty while trying to focus on their education and getting a degree. These findings prove that many of us already know that this isn't just an individual problem. It's a systematic issue that demands real solution within our country. When I moved from Brazil to the United States, everything was new to me. I didn't know any English. I could barely understand anything really. And I can't believe it's been 12 years. Adjusting to a completely unfamiliar environment was overwhelming, but it also shaped my perspective and inequality in access to basic needs, different from Brazil to the United States. Growing up in Lynn, Massachusetts, I witnessed menstrual poverty firsthand. It started in schools where I saw classmates who couldn't afford menstrual products. I remember friends missing class or scrambling to find makeshift solutions because they simply didn't have access to what they needed at the time. I didn't have the words for it, but I knew it wasn't right. No one should have to choose between buying food and buying period products when it's a human necessity. That's why I believe that this work is so important, because access to menstrual products isn't a luxury, it's a basic necessity. Last year, Mass Now distributed over 200,000 menstrual products, including tampons, pads, cups, discs, and period underwear, because we believe everyone deserves the right to choose the product that works best for them. We were proud to partner with high-quality, ethical menstrual product companies to ensure that people receive safe and effective options. We also worked with over 40 community organizers and city agencies across the state, and this year our list is already growing so much. I feel incredibly lucky that my job is to organize for menstrual equity across the state. With Mass Now, I get to coordinate free menstrual product to some of the most vulnerable population in Massachusetts. At the same time, to be honest, this shouldn't be just a job for me. The state of Massachusetts should take this work, just like it does for other basic needs within our state. Thank you for being here today and taking your legislators about co-sponsoring our menstrual equity legislate agenda. Together, we're breaking down barriers to menstrual equity, one product, one conversation, and one policy at a time. Thank you for all being here and taking the time to take action today.
Yay, thank you, Kathy. I am so excited to uh, tell you all some more about the trainings and work that we're going to be doing. When I bring up our next speaker, I'll just share as a brief introduction that our goal is not just to give out products so that people don't have to talk about it. Our goal is not just to give out quality products so that people are having safe experiences with their menstrual care, but our goal is also for people to know what's happening to their body and to have menstruation education. And when we started this work, menstruation was not included in the healthcare frameworks for our schools across the state. One of the campaigns we were able to do 2 summers ago, as the state was updating the health education frameworks, was add in menstruation. We're so glad that it was added, but now we know there's work that we still need to do to create curriculum and share that curriculum with teachers across the state. I see Megara Bell is here, who helped work on our menstrual education curriculum and do a gap analysis for Fall River Public Schools. So we're really excited about that work happening across the state. And to get into more about what that education looks like, I'm excited to welcome Dana Alice from the Mayor Boston's Office of Women's Advancement to share a few words and share an exciting announcement.
Thank you, Sasha. Good afternoon, almost everyone. Very excited to talk about the work that our Office of Women's Advancement in the City of Boston is doing with Mass Now. In 2023, we launched a pilot at 6 of our Boston Public Library branches that provided free community workshops and products in bathrooms. After we evaluated the product, we realized that, to Sasha's point, we need to educate both the adults around these young people and then find more youth-friendly ways to educate them about periods and what's happening to their bodies and those around them. So in conjunction with, we will be launching an animation series in 12 languages that highlights what menstruation is and how to use those products while remaining health focused and culturally sensitive. Collaboration with Plural Animation and Mass Now simultaneously will be training our Boston BCYF staff a 90-minute menstrual equity training that is going to promote meaningful dialogue around menstruation and its impact on health, education, and overall well-being. So we're super excited because we went from 6 libraries to now all of BCYF and have pivoted to make sure we are educating both populations and expanding that knowledge base. So hopefully all trainings will be complete by the launch party on Wednesday, May 28th, National Period Day. The location is to be determined, but we hope to see you all there and supporting.
Thank you, Dana. And thank you, Hallie, to your team also, who's been holding down the fort and working on this for a while. It is so exciting to see an entire city agency commit to menstrual education trainings. We hope to inspire other agencies across the state to follow suit. And I'm so excited for Menstrual Health Day, May 28th, to celebrate with you all. So along the lines of public buildings, as I introduce our next speakers, a lot of people are wondering, what are public buildings? And BCYF is a perfect example of what a public building is. Libraries are also another great example. It also includes schools, incarcerated facilities, a lot of the other areas that we've been talking about. And to tell you more about this work, I'm excited to welcome Lily from Rep. Dom's office to, I see you now in the center of my screen, to say a few more words.
Thank you. It's great to be here with all of you and to be in such a room of support for menstrual equity. So Rep. Dom filed an act to increase access to menstrual products in public buildings with Senator Jalen this session. This is a combined bill of two bills that Rep. Dom had filed last session, so trying to connect how this affects everything. We are really inspired by the work of UMass students to provide menstrual products in bathrooms and to bring advocacy to this important topic. And it's really great to hear Kathy speak as well this morning. So this bill would include public buildings and then buildings on public institutions of higher education. Rep. Dom really sees menstrual equity as connected to all basic needs. And so if students are provided with menstrual products on their campuses, it allows for more money for other necessities that they need. This shouldn't be something that stops someone from going to class, as we've all said this morning. And we're really excited to partner with Senator Jalen's team this session on this bill as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily, for all of your advocacy at the State House. I am now excited to welcome Senator Jalen, who, as you heard, has been a lead sponsor on many menstrual equity bills, to say a few words as well.
So thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Like everybody says, this is a really dangerous time and it's very scary. And so it's especially important for us to be here together and to celebrate what has been some real progress and some real opportunity. Like Representative Barber, I learned about period poverty and this campaign from students in Somerville and Medford high schools. And I've joined her and Rep. Livingstone in working with Mass Now, and it's amazing organizing to require menstrual products in public schools, shelters, and prisons. And thanks to them for explaining its origin. I think all of us legislators who are involved have a story about students bringing their stories to us. I was surprised last year in the budget debate when Senator O'Connor introduced a budget amendment to fund project distribution, which I now realize was based on Kenzie's work. The Senate has passed our bill on public schools, shelters, and prisons unanimously twice. And this is the year I hope the House will join us. This year, the Mass Now, I asked Rep. Dom and me to file this bill, which will make menstrual products available free of cost and stigma in public higher education buildings and in all state buildings. Again, this movement has largely been led by women in higher education. Unfortunately, many college students experience poverty, including period poverty. We haven't passed either bill yet, but just the expansion of organizing and advocacy shows how far we have come together. We have already won the cultural war. Just a few years ago, people like me were reluctant to say words like menstruation out loud. I appreciate so much Daniela's story about her experience in school. It's brought back some of my most traumatic memories from elementary and high school involving menstruation. Telling stories is incredibly important in passing legislation, but it's also been important, and it will be important in changing the culture of silence and shame. Mass Now and all of you have shown tampons and pads in public and talked about how access to them in public places should be like access to toilet paper, free and simple. That's a real cultural shift, and I want to celebrate it. Cultural change is just as important and maybe more permanent, as we're learning, than changing laws. I've started taking photos of menstrual products available in public buildings, in agencies and universities as we change the conversation. It's great to know about the work to raise funds for pre-products. I was so moved to visit a meeting of Girl Up, where young women from high schools and colleges were making packets of menstrual products to send to Gaza. And our granddaughter was so glad to work on the changes in the health curriculum. This issue is not isolated, particularly as Rep. Decker has highlighted. Legislation never happens without the kind of advocacy you all are doing here today. So go out and let's make this happen.
Thank you, Senator Jalen. I love all the warm rounds of applause everywhere. And yeah, it's so powerful to have such an intergenerational coalition as well. I think that, we can't just be talking about one type of experience menstruating. There's people of all ages experiencing period poverty. And don't even get me started on talking about menopause and perimenopause. We'll be adding more policy around that to our agenda soon enough, I'm sure as well. But this is really happening across the lifespan for people. So thank you so much for your leadership in the State House and growing more and more with more bills every session. I'm now very excited to welcome Angelica Castillo from Lawrence High School to say a few words. I see Kenzie knows her well, lots of folks here. She has been doing incredible work to mobilize her peers on the ground and is such a joy to speak to as well. And so I'm so thankful to be in coalition and community with you, Angelica. I wish we could have met in person. I know you were planning on bringing a bunch of students all the way from Lawrence, but the roads are not all right. So that's okay. We'll find another time to go flood the State House. We need a rain check on the in-person for all of us. But thank you for being here virtually today.
Thank you so much, Sasha. I'm so happy to be here and talk about my experience in advocating for peer poverty. I want to shout out to Kenzie for being so wonderful. She and her team with Free Period actually donated peer products to Lawrence High School, around 8,000 peer products for students. And I've been able to distribute them across the school offices, bathrooms, the personal bathrooms that we have, and it's been truly amazing. Kids appreciate them so much. They keep talking about it like, oh, we have free period products, that's so great. And I keep thinking about, well, soon they're gonna run out, so let's keep working to make this happen and pass the IM bill. But I actually put together a very passionate speech about my experience. So when I joined track and field my sophomore year, I was thrilled to visit the different high schools around Lawrence, as our different races, cultures, and backgrounds were embraced on the track. We shared a passion that brought us together as equals and made barriers disappear. Visiting North Andover High School, however, made me realize that our socioeconomic differences prevailed amidst our shared passions. I was amazed when I saw their bathrooms filled with pure products for students, and I was overcome with a propulsive desire to demonstrate Lawrence students are deserving of the same access to essential items like menstrual products. Using a Google form, I decided to research the prevalence of pure poverty in my school. I was touched by the many students who shared their experiences of lacking access to pure products at school, walking to the nurse's office with stained khaki pants, losing class time searching for a pad or a tampon, and in some cases, not going to school at all when they have their periods. Through questions like, have you been absent from school due to a lack of period products? And have you gone on a full day with the same pad or tampon because you didn't have an extra one to change it? We learned that around 60% of students at Lawrence High School are experiencing period poverty. I was motivated to solve the problem, starting from the roots. I sought ways to develop my project by contacting Free Period, a nonprofit organization that helps students access free period products in schools. They gave me different strategies to expand my project and contribute to solving the issue. One of the things I advised was sending an email asking my state representatives and senators to vote in favor of the IM bill that aims to provide free period products for all Massachusetts public schools, homeless shelters, prisons, and public spaces. Period poverty stands in the doorway, impeding many menstruators who wish to study. It snatches away their dignity and their motivation to continue showing up for their dreams. It makes them feel ashamed of the natural yet beautiful processes that enables humans to exist in as a species. Pure poverty is not a disease, but it still consumes the daily thoughts of millions of people, preventing them from getting out of the house to continue their normal lives. Each month, they lose class time or work time because they can't afford to buy pure products or they don't have access to them. Schools already serve as a second home for many, providing breakfast, lunch, dinner, a bathroom with toilet paper, water, and soap, and a space to develop intellectually after school hours with clubs and sports. Schools succeed at providing the tools to live life subsidized by the many resources available to students. Yet they still fail half the population of students who menstruate by not providing free period products and bathrooms. Last year, I had a field trip to the State House, and I was determined to meet and speak with my local senator, Pavel Payano. I had written him a handwritten letter to support the IM bill and told him about my project of advocating for peer poverty. This letter helped me secure a vote in favor of the IM bill, a bill that could directly tackle the issue of peer poverty not only in Lawrence High School, but in thousands of other high schools and middle schools across the state. Unfortunately, the IM bill didn't pass during the last legislative session. So we're here again at the start of the new session, pleading state legislators and senators to finally pass the IM bill once and for all. And this time, there's more of us talking to even more legislators. Because you're here today, you have the power to advocate for the end of peer poverty directly, using your voice and passion for the issue. It's in your hands to embrace and support the necessity and importance of having peer products and to get us one step closer to finally having what we all deserve. Free period products for everyone. Yay! Thank you so much for being here. I'm really encouraging everybody I have a template that Kenzie gave me to ask your state representatives, your senators to advocate and pass the IM bill and vote in favor of the bill. So I'm going to put it in the chat and please call them. I don't want to say harass them. I want to say, but it's a really delicate issue that we have to tackle now. So please, I'm going to put the template in the chat so that you can use it to email your legislators. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Kenzie.
Thank you, Angelica. I see all the love in the chat and all the emojis. That was fire. You are the example that we are following to center our advocacy, because we do need to be harassing our legislators. You know, sending one email is great, but also we get a lot of emails. When you have a conversation with someone about bleeding through your clothes, they're going to remember that conversation at the end of the day when they think about all of the conversations about the many different issues that they had. So I'm sorry that we're going to have to ask folks many times to be talking to the legislators, but thank you today for jump starting the legislative session with as many conversations as we can organize. I just need to take a breath because my heart is just so full right now with all the love here on the Zoom. I'm sad we only have one more speaker, but I know the speaker is going to bring the Energizer Bunner energy and be a great segue to us transitioning to our advocacy meetings. Councillor Strezzo, thank you for your advocacy on the local level in Somerville. You are the perfect example of how advocacy is needed beyond passing one policy. You know, we can pass one policy and that's great, but that doesn't solve the issue. We need elected officials like you who can make sure that policy is implemented, and also knowing that schools are not the only places where people experiencing period poverty exist. We need policies on the local city and the state level to capture all of the opportunities for having free period products be just as accessible as toilet paper. So thank you for your advocacy, and thank you for kicking us all off before we transition to talking about our legislative meetings.
No, thank you. And I want to thank you, Sasha and Mass Now and MME Coalition and our legislative champions and all this and all of our fierce advocates. I've learned a lot even in this. I've been talking about this for years, but learned a lot even just in this hour, which is amazing to me. That's the real work. And let's talk about stories. So once upon a time, long, long ago, someone somewhere in every government department, every office park, every library decided that their budget, when they ordered their building supplies, chose not to include menstrual products when they made their purchasing decisions. And I'm going to fairly confidently guess they probably never bled. And I think that resonating decision all the way to today, all that wrong decision all those years ago, you know, that left impact to where we are here in 2025, still fighting to normalize the shutting out of a very normal, healthy body process, such as menstruation. And we have to normalize premenstrual products. We have to normalize menstruation. We have to normalize bleeding. And we have to normalize menstrual equity till we don't have an issue anymore. And I'm encouraged by like SDU 1177 and Act 2 and HD, an act to increase menstrual products in public buildings, and all the bills before us today. And I'm hoping that they all pass alongside all the legislation. But I want to remind you that while we're waiting and we're working to push this forward, we can do all we can at a local level to do this. And you can reach out to your local elected officials, your city councilors, your mayors, your town officials, and ask them to include free menstrual products in all city-owned bathrooms. Ask them to put this in their FY26 budget. This was my strategy as a city councilor years ago to include menstrual products, and it worked. They're in a pilot now. Somerville has a pilot program which was developed through the Health and Human Services Department. And so we have a limited amount right now. It's in some of our teen centers, the rec department, I believe, and there's 2 dispensers at Project Soup. But this year I'm going to put it forward again while we're still waiting for our acts to work their magic at the state level for a budget request to expand the pilot program to every city-owned bathroom. My first request, still putting it forward, going to keep doing it till it happens. What's the counter to this? Well, I'll give you an example. I was in Cambridge visiting a hospital in Cambridge last week, and Rep. Decker and Senator Jalen's turf. And in one of the hospital public bathrooms, I saw a menstrual product dispenser newly installed. And the new dispenser there had a new price tag for the menstrual products for $1. $1 in quarters for a tampon or a menstrual product in a hospital. This was last week. That is wrong. It's unacceptable. This should not be normalized. Even charging, in my opinion, a dime for a tampon is wrong. But $1? And a menstruator should never have to pay $1 for that in 2025. Not to mention the fact that that's assuming that, I don't know, does anyone in 2025 carry around a bag of quarters anymore? Let's be real. So you're creating 2 problems, and I can't even begin with that. And believe me, that fight isn't over. But everyone's point, we're saying toilet paper, that's true. So now with our budget requests, menstrual products should be available, like we said, like toilet paper, like bathroom hand towel dispensers. As none of us here are expected to pay for hand towels in a public bathroom, so should we not for a tampon? And we're going to get this done. It's a matter of when. So please let your elected officials know about this legislation. Ask them to co-sponsor it. Please talk to your local city officials. And the city officials at a local level. Those are people that are, you know, they're coaches on your softball teams, and they're your neighbors. So it's very accessible. Talk to your selectmen, talk to your counselors, talk to your mayors, see them at the grocery store. They're there. Talk to them. Make this possible. It's available now, and while we wait for it at a state level. And always happy to talk further about it if you're in Somerville or anything. So thanks again. Thanks for all your work. Happy to do alongside you.
Thank you, Councilor Strezzo. I am shook by the $1 cost for a menstrual product, especially at a hospital. I think that might be the most expensive menstrual product I've heard of in Massachusetts. And so just like Senator Jalen was saying too, when you see menstrual product dispensers, even if you don't need a menstrual product at that time, take note, take a picture of it, and share it with us, because that's how we can find all these opportunities for advocacy on the public and the private level, because individually we can't do this alone, but together with our collective power and networks, we are moving the needle every single day. Thank you everyone for being here for our speaking program. Let's give another warm round of applause for all of our speakers.